Hi, welcome back to Jonesy Chat's Wrestling. Thank you for checking out the video. Welcome back to the channel. We're back again, doing what we have to. We're reviewing Monday Night Raw. Got an update on Daniel Bryan. It's going to be a fun show. Looking forward to discussing this with you, Steve. I'm going to put the reviewing Raw off this week to Wednesday. I'm hoping the day later might make it a bit more kind of bearable, but it's great to have you here. How are you today before we go forward?
I'm a lot better off seeing NXT, put it that way, man.
Oh, definitely. NXT was obviously night and day above it. Just before we kind of go forward then, Steve, so obviously going into this Raw, Raw obviously hasn't been particularly great following WrestleMania, so they had a lot of work to try and do this week. They're obviously going against AEW Guts and Glory tonight, which for me looks to be a stat show, looks to be one of the stellar shows of the year probably. I'm really kind of excited by that. Did you have high expectation going into this Raw, or am I asking too much?
You asking way too much, man. Way too much. This was painful, man. Like I don't understand it. How it's so bad, man. Like, don't get me wrong. There is still good parts to it, but there's not enough to justify you sitting there watching a 3-hour show, man. It's like I said after last week's, it's just I don't know how they can get even worse, man.
Definitely. If anyone's joining us first time today, new viewers and old, you're welcome. We hope you enjoy the show. Please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel for all that good stuff. Please support what we're trying to do here at Jonesy Chat's Wrestling. Without further ado, let's kind of get into it then. So Monday Night Raw, coming off of a very impactful SmackDown, which we will touch on later. So let's kind of get into it then. So the show obviously opens up. We have got sort of a video package from earlier today. It's MVP talking to Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville. Pearce says that a coin will be flipped to see who Bobby Lashley will face. This would be between Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman. Strowman calls the coin toss towels. It ends up with it being towels. So Strowman's the one that's going to face Bobby Lashley later in the show. Obviously, WWE had hyped this all throughout the day of this coin toss. Took me back to nostalgia, really. I went back to sort of one of the WrestleManias where we had Lex Luger, Bret Hart tossing for a coin. What did you think of this opening kind of segment?
Oh, man, I thought this was painful. Like, I missed sort of the opening sort of segment, so I missed the whole MVP, but I only cut in from the whole coin toss itself, and I was like, is this how WWE are booking matches now with coin tosses? Like, I don't these three guys are going to be main event in your next pay-per-view, and you've got them all going in singles matches against each other in the weeks leading up to it, and it's like, what's the point, man? What is the point of this? Yeah, man, I didn't enjoy it, man. I was like, this is great. This is a great start.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's sort of just typically fit what they're doing. Obviously, because they haven't got any kind of angles they can follow up on. This is how they start the show to get the main event out there, which I kind of get to a certain point. But coin toss, it was a bit stupid. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville are GMs. They should just be able to decide who wants to face each other rather than toss a coin. It's a bit 90s for me, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. So moving forward, then we obviously had the returning Raw Tag Team Champions, AJ Styles and Omos. They're out there, sort of. They do a very, very long promo. It kind of goes on and on. Omos is obviously allowed to speak, which it wasn't as good as WrestleMania for me. I think he sort of didn't really have great strength. You could see that AJ needs to be in the promo. What was your thoughts of their promo before the New Day interrupt?
Omos should not be allowed to talk that much on a mic. His mic skills are not great. I'm not being funny. AJ can talk. Just do what they were doing before. Let Omos have like one-word inputs. I think that adds more to his character than if you give him this stuff. But yeah, it's just he's not good on the mic at the minute.
Definitely. I think the thing with it is it was interesting to start with the return because that was one of the main things going into the show that I was kind of excited about. And we knew they were coming back. There was no real explanation of where they've been, although they're saying it was a holiday vacation. I don't know. That's obviously not the case. I think it's sort of...
Yeah, I think Omos was injured apparently. So that's why the reason why they haven't been on TV. But yeah, it's just... So as I said, it's just... There's no... we were celebrating, but it's kind of like, I'm not being funny. There's no reason why AJ couldn't have been on TV for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
No, definitely. I think the thing with it is just one of them things where it's good to get them back. It's good that the tag team champions have them back. Obviously, we've got the New Day come out. New Day obviously wanted to win their 12th tag team title. For me, this promo and this segment went on and on and on. We then obviously had a match. So most of the beginning of Raw was just the same thing again and again and again. The match we saw was very similar to WrestleMania. Didn't really add anything new. Crucially, AJ Styles and Omos pick up the win, so I was happy about that. I was worried they dropped the belt with them. But for me, I just thought that it didn't really do anything. I think we've seen this at WrestleMania. It just didn't really offer this. What did you think of this?
No, it had a couple of decent spots on it. Like Kofi done, what was it? Kofi had some sort of modified move that he done off the top rope to AJ to the outside. When he he jumps off the top rope and does like that free fall sort of what Darby Allin does, like that coffin drop that he does to the outside was great. He done a great jumping knee to AJ, and then the forearm. I think it's less unimpressive when he does it off Omos's shoulders. To be fair, but yeah, it wasn't great. It's just filler, unfortunately.
I think the thing with it is a couple of things. I think it was great the selling New Day did for Omos. They made Omos looking at $1 million yet again. It looks like this guy can't be stopped, which is pretty good. For me, my only small real concern was this was the point you needed somebody to come out and attack AJ and Omos to set up a tag match potentially at the pay-per-view, which we didn't get.
Or just their next challengers. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to necessarily be an attack. Just it would be like, we're going to challenge you next. Like, no, Eric and you had Eric and Ivar in a backstage segment, and it was like, you're not being funny. They're probably one of the next teams to challenge them because they're one of the only other face teams that they've got.
Yeah, definitely. Moving kind of forward with this, we then obviously had a promo backstage. It was Sonya Deville talking to Charlotte Flair. Adam Pearce walks in. Sonya kind of brushes him off. It kind of was interesting. I like the tension they're building early on this episode of Raw. What did you think of this sort of tension?
Yeah, I don't know where it's going though. This is my only issue. Like, as you kind of find out later on that everyone was presuming that Sonya is sort of like an understudy to what Pearce is, but then you find out later on that they're both on the same level, and I'm like, this is going to lead to Pearce being taken off TV, I think, and Sonya just being this heel sort of authority figure, I reckon. But yeah, I like Sonya, I like Charlotte. I've got no problems with it. I'll be honest with you, it's Pearce that's doing my brain in. It's just like I find him really irritable at the minute.
No, I kind of agree. I think for me, where I see it leading up, it's very similar to what you said. I think obviously Sonya's going to get Raw. I'd love to see Adam Pearce sort of go on to SmackDown. I'd love to see them be GMs, fueling, going into Survivor Series where we're going to have brands, where there's actual contest, if that makes sense, there's actual tension. Obviously Adam Pearce has got a new job. I know when the house shows are coming back, he's going to be running the house shows. So that's kind of maybe why they want to get him off TV. But very, very interesting dynamic. I really hope this storyline's paid off, though, because it's been really good so far.
Yeah, so the pair of them, Charlotte and Sonya, this is probably one of the highlights of Raw going forward.
Definitely. We then obviously had this controversial segment. So obviously we had this vignette. Eva Marie's returning. Obviously Eva Marie's been signed for a while. She's going to be known as Evolution. For me, I just thought, what are they doing? They released Peyton Royce. They released Mickie James. They released Billie Kay. They released far more talented female wrestlers rather than bring Eva Marie back. And last time Eva Marie was here, she was pretty green. She wasn't particularly good. I just thought the name was awful. It sounds like Emelina for me again, and I just think it's
this same gimmick that Vince has been trying to get over since 2016, because he had Eva Marie try to do this, he had Emma try to do this, he had Lana try and do it, he had Carmella do it. I don't know what this gimmick is supposed to be and what Vince is trying to achieve with it. And I'm not being funny. Last time Eva Marie was on WWE TV, she was having wardrobe malfunctions and not being able to compete because her clothes were falling apart. And it's just like, well, I don't understand this gimmick that he's trying to get over. I really don't. And it's just like, it just bugs the hell out of me. And like you said, yeah, they've released Peyton Royce and Billie Kay and brought back Eva Marie.
And Mickie James. Mickie James would have been far better. And another one, why couldn't they put Carmella in this spot? You know what I mean? Carmella's a fantastic worker.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Carmella, this gimmick. It's the same gimmick. And it's just like, obviously, Vince wasn't happy with Carmella's rendition. So he's bringing back someone else that tried to do it 5 years ago. It's insane, man.
Very random to bring it back on this episode of Raw. I thought very random placement. Let's see what we do. The gimmick to me looks like it's a heel character, but we'll see where this goes. I'm not excited. I've got to be honest with you. I thought it's great to see new talent there, but I'd much rather they would have done something with Io Shirai in this spot. Bring Io Shirai in on a vignette or something where somebody can actually do something into the women's division, because Eva Marie ain't going to be beating Rhea Ripley, I don't think, anytime soon. I'll put it out there now.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
I can't see her beating her ever, to be fair.
No, definitely. We then obviously had sort of a backstage segment. We got Elias and Jackson Riker. They're there with tomatoes. They try and throw some at the New Day. This is obviously the Karen from last week. Randy Orton gets hit. Randy Orton's face is hilarious. It's brilliant. He really sells it quite good. We then end up with Riddle and Randy Orton there. I enjoyed it. It's Karen from last week. The tomato thing doesn't really do anything for me. What do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just a way to build to this match later on. Like I said, Randy is involved in this, man. And when Randy Orton is enjoying what he's doing, you get some great work, man. So, yeah, I'm all for this RK Bro stuff.
Definitely. We then obviously had this Charlotte Flair versus Dana Brooke with Mandy Rose. For me, I thought this was okay. Charlotte Flair clearly been but strong, which was all right. Finn, crucially, she got the win there. It does end up with kind of Charlotte keeping Dana in the figure eight submission after. So Mandy does the save. We then end up with sort of a Sonya promo. Sonya obviously comes out and it ends up with Adam Pearce there as well. Adam Pearce obviously, she says she's equal to Adam Pearce. This is just largely a promo basically to get Charlotte added into this WWE Women's match at Backlash WrestleMania. What did you think of the match and the promo?
The promo was really good. It was sort of 90% high, 10% low. Like the fact that they don't make a reference to Rhea and Charlotte having faced each other for the NXT Women's Championship with Io Shirai and Triple Threat. That's these things that will bug me. And then if this is Charlotte's new sort of quote, "Be fair to Flair," oh man, this is terrible. But to be fair, everything Charlotte stated is true. She should be in the title match. It's all true stuff that she's saying. But yeah, when Asuka come out, I was just like, Asuka just needs to snap now. She needs to go full heel and just turn back to heel Asuka. I want to see like the green mist and all this kind of stuff.
She's struggling, isn't she?
Yeah, and it's like Rhea saying Charlotte hasn't earned the match, hasn't earned it. And it's like, let's be honest, Charlotte very rarely loses.
No, she beat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania last year.
That's what I'm saying.
I think the thing with, as I said to you before, when we was off there, I said that the fact that you got Rhea Ripley obviously there as well, crying that Charlotte's added. Rhea Ripley's meant to be a heel. She shouldn't be crying. I know that you got a similar thing going on with Bobby Lashley MVP about with the men's triple threat, but for me, Rhea Ripley as a heel isn't working at the moment. What did you think?
But then that's what I'm saying. This is why they should make reference to the triple threat matches that they've had in NXT. Make note that Rhea hasn't beaten Charlotte in a triple threat match. Do you know what I mean? These are all little things that you could add to this to give Rhea a bit more credibility instead of just making her look like she's terrified of. What is it with champions being afraid of triple threat matches? Bobby's afraid of triple threat matches. Rhea's afraid of triple threat matches. It's like, I don't get it. It's you're playing the same character dynamic twice, and it just doesn't make sense.
They love a triple threat at the moment, didn't they? Unfortunately.
I'm all for it, but don't give the champion the whole. Oh, I don't want to be in a triple threat.
The champion should be really up for defending the belt. These guys haven't had the belt long. Both of them. Rhea's not had the belt long. Bobby hasn't had the belt long. For me, I hope they retain the belts. I think if they drop the belts at WrestleMania Backlash, it'll be a big mistake. It would be not good.
I won't lie. I can probably see Charlotte picking up that women's one.
That'd be a real shame.
I think
Oscar, he deserves it, but I think save it for a while.
I think Oscar's going to be the one to take the pinfall. I think that's how you get the title back onto Charlotte without Rhea taking a loss, and I think that's why this has been done. But yeah, I think Bobby will retain, no problems.
No problem. We then obviously had this bet. So it's Adam Pearce going up to Sonya Deville. He obviously asked what that was about. Sonya said she texted him. Adam said that he didn't get the text. Sonya says she has to make decisions. Pearce said they should have to make decisions. Agreed. Sonya reluctantly accepts. For me, this is obviously what we discussed earlier about. I think that the texting thing is going back to when Triple H and Kevin Nash had that whole thing with the mobile phone, like back in 2015, whenever it was. It's the same type of thing, but it would be nice eventually if they say who they're texting. Either way, I think that needs to come out. What did you think of this segment?
Yeah, it's just, like I said, Pearce is just irritating me at the minute, man. He just seems to be constantly complaining about stuff, and it's not been funny. Everything Sonya's done, to be fair, has been to the point. She's brought Charlotte back because Charlotte is a main eventer, and she needs to be on the show. To have her off TV is an injustice. She's paid her fine. She's apologized, which is another thing. I think that ref's going to come into play when it comes to that triple threat match as well. I think that's going to come into it. But yeah, just Pearce is just acting like a crybaby, and it's just really irritating.
Definitely is irritating. We then obviously had this match. It's Damian Priest versus John Morrison. For me, I was really looking forward to this match. Sort of going into it, I thought this is going to be a really, really good match. It's something different. Unfortunately, didn't really deliver. Didn't really connect. I don't know whether Morrison's still injured, but crucially, Damian Priest gets the win. For me, it makes sense. Interesting note: there is dissension there between Miz and Morrison. The split is on its way. It looks, which is quite good to see. What did you think of the match and the potential split of Miz and Morrison?
Back into just to go back to the promo just before, Johnny going on about drip. I'm not being funny. That guy said about drip about 9 times in that promo, and it was
sucked.
It was just bad, man. And then we obviously a second recap of the tomatoes being thrown from the previous week, and it was like, oh man, why are we doing this? And then I'm not being funny. Has Priest faced anyone else apart from Miz, Morrison, or Elias since he's been on Raw? Because I'm just honestly sick of this dynamic now. I mean, don't get me wrong, the match had a high point and a nice Spanish fly off the top, but it just ends with The Miz costing Morrison the win by accidentally distracting the ref. And it was just like, I'm bored of seeing this dynamic now. This is like my view on Leon Ruff and Isaiah Swerve Scott in NXT. I'm just bored of seeing it now. It's been on every week for God knows how long.
I'd love Damian Priest to get away from the Miz. That was WrestleMania, as we said last week's podcast. It's one of the things where they can't seem to let Damian Priest do anything new and move on. For me, where I'd love to have seen them go by this point, they should have been booking a Damian Priest Sheamus match, in my opinion, for the United States title. That's what they should have been doing really at WrestleMania Backlash. But there we go. That's me dreaming, I guess, of logical kind of booking in that respect. That's what I'd like to see. Obviously, you look like you agree.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, like I said, it was the natural transition for Priest. He's done his thing at Mania. He's done that. Sheamus is now champ. I'm not being funny. Yes, all right. Put him in a match with Sheamus. Let him take a loss to Sheamus. But it was the natural progression for Priest and his story arc.
Definitely. I know that they've got this Chronicle thing at Damian Priest this weekend, so I'm hoping off the back of that it's going to go somewhere. But for me, they need to get it done. Is it going to be Miz and Damian Priest again at the pay-per-view? Which I just think if that's the case, I think I don't need to see it. We've seen it on Raw so many times already.
No, I reckon they. To be fair, they're probably using Priest as an angle to get Miz and Morrison to split up, and I think this is why this is still going on. But yeah, I'm just not interested in seeing it. I said I want to see Priest, but I just don't want to see him against the same two people he's been fighting since his debut.
Definitely. We then obviously had this interesting backstage segment. We've got Mansoor in the office with Adam Priest. So returning Mansoor, he's signed a contract. So obviously he's coming in. Great hype. This guy formerly beat Cesaro back in 2019 in Saudi. He's obviously had this win streak relevant at Goldberg apparently on 205 Live. He's been beating everybody. That's not mentioned. He's obviously there. Ends up with Sheamus coming out. This is just kind of designed basically to get a match between the two. What did you think of Mansoor debuting? Were you excited?
I was shocked. I was like, wow, he gets an appearance outside of NXT or 205 Live or the Saudi Arabia shows. So, yeah. But, yeah, like you said, he's undefeated in WWE. He's never lost a match.
You're right.
And that's just
to this week.
Yeah. And I was like, as soon as this was made, I was like, I can see where this arc's going now. I'm going to call it now. I reckon he's going to win the US title off of Sheamus and the next Saudi Arabia show. I think this is where this is going to go because they're supposed to be going back to doing the Saudi shows soon. And I think that's just ultimately what I think he's been brought in to do.
I think it's a good shout. Obviously, Mansoor's a favourite of the Prince, has putting the money up for these tours and stuff. It would make sense for me when I saw this sort of announcement. I thought it's great to see Mansoor there. That's the positive. But let's kind of get to the facts of it. Let's get to the truth of it. When we look at this is a really stupid idea by WWE. Why the hell would you put somebody in a match where you're going to risk their win streak and against Sheamus? He couldn't win the match, and I think it's just a really stupid booking. You need to introduce Mansoor slowly. What qualifies him to have this contendership? Number one shot, nothing.
To be fair, though, obviously the result of the match was beyond his control. But yeah, I wouldn't know exactly what you mean. It's like this guy's undefeated and
he needs a pinfall on his debut. That's the thing on the main roster.
That's normally what happens, yeah. So even if it was in a non-title match, a win over Sheamus would do the world of good for him. But that's not how Raw booked it, apparently.
Yeah, I guess you can't go from beating Akira Tozawa on a season ticket amount of times to beating Sheamus. It's one of the things they can't do, I guess.
Oh, but you can beat Cesaro in Saudi Arabia and do you know what I mean? That makes sense.
There you go, definitely. We then obviously had this sort of backstage kind of promo. We've got MVP there with Kayla Braxton. MVP says Bobby Lashley's match with Braun Strowman shouldn't happen. MVP said that Strowman doesn't even deserve to be in a title match. Bobby and Drew have a lot in common. They're 15-year journeys to get the WWE title. MVP said maybe Bobby and Drew will take out Strowman together. Interesting tease, obviously trying to get a hint that Drew may help Bobby, but I thought MVP was great in the promo here. What do you think?
I was just saying, it was like the third MVP promo
they're
of
just
the night,
using people,
and it was like, oh man, I'm not being funny, sort of overkilling it now, but I got the impression his character was sort of very 50-50. Like 1 minute he's up for this and saying that Bobby's going to dominate. Like the previous promo, he was like, "Oh, Bobby will dominate everyone," blah blah blah. But then this one, he's like, "Oh, he shouldn't be in a triple threat." And it's like, it was kind of, I thought it was a weird dynamic how he came across in it for some reason.
Definitely. Sort of moving forward then with this, we then obviously had this tag match. So we've got the Hurt Business, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin facing Lucha House Party. And for me, obviously, Lucha House Party end up getting a win, which was kind of obvious. The Hurt Business, these guys haven't won a match since March 1st. The losing streak is here. They're at the levels of Ricochet, that type of level now, which is a real shame. For me, I was just raging at this point. I think just because they've left Bobby, I just think it's one of them things. But obviously, crucially, at the end of this match, we end up with a split angle, which is quite good. So we're finally getting it split. I'm really hoping Cedric Alexander is the one that gets saved out of this because this guy's got some great ability on the mic. But I'm just really, really annoyed with this booking. I think the booking of the Hurt Business, these guys are former tag team champions. They were tag team champions as recent as March. Why are you not keeping them sort of competitive? At least if you don't want to sort of push them. Who are they going to lose to next? Sort of the Ninjas or something, you know what I mean? It's just so stupid. What do you think?
The fact that they come back from a commercial break and the match has already started is the biggest joke I've ever seen on Raw. The fact that neither of them got an entrance. Literally, I'm watching it and I'm like, come back from commercial break and we're 2 minutes into a match and I'm like, hang on, excuse me, what's going on here, man? The burial of Shelton and Cedric continues, and it's probably, it's like I said, unfortunately, it's probably just going to end up seeing Cedric at main event or 205 Live. I hate to say it, man, but that's just where I can see it going.
Definitely. I'm interested to see what happens. Obviously, do you think they're going to get time to play off this singles feud? I don't think so. I think it's one of them things which is done on Raw next week and ruined after the first attempt, probably.
Yeah, they gave Shelton a little segment later on in the night, but yeah, that's it, man. You ain't going to see no more of that. That's it. It's just now that you've got Randy Orton and Matt Riddle as a tag team. It's 1 in, 1 out. So they've brought one tag team out, and now this team's gone, and it's just, man, it's a joke.
Definitely. We then obviously had a backstage segment. We've got Angel Garza there. He's walking around with a rose. He ends up bumping into Drew Gulak. It kind of ends up with a match. Crucially, I've got a question for you, Steve. So, obviously, the last few weeks, they've restarted this Angel Garza, Nia Jax supposed storyline that they started months ago and then dropped after a week. They've dropped it again this week. So, for me, is it just you or is it just me that the lack of follow-up on storylines, it makes it impossible for you to get invested into this brand because they're just so bad?
I was all for it last week when we were going to get a Reginald Garza angle. Yeah, I thought, this will be entertaining at least, but this was bad as well. You got Gulak banging on about win-loss records. I'm like, Drew, you're Drew Gulak. You don't have the best record in wrestling, and for you to sit there and say that to Angel Garza, and it was like, oh my god, it's just, oh man, it's just bad. I was so irritated by this, man. And yeah, like I said, there's no Reginald payoff, which is what I wanted to see because at least that would have been entertaining. But no, again, we're screwed over by Monday Night Raw. Thanks again, WWE.
It's just so frustrating because you really want to get invested, even if the storyline's atrocious and you think it's going nowhere. It'd be nice if they at least have the decency to pay it off. But
the highlight was the fact that Garza said he was going to shove a rose up his ass. That was it.
Yeah, that's the new gimmick, isn't it? Let's be fair. But speaking of Drew Gulak and the win-loss streak, you are correct. Drew Gulak, he's won one match since March, and that was against Akira Tozawa, a main event every other time he's jobbed. So him going about a loss streak it's great to see them on TV, but I've just got no care for these guys at this point. I'm sorry.
Who's writing this stuff, man? Because it's atrocious, man.
Definitely not good. So we obviously had this match then. So it's Drew Gulak, Angel Garza. I just thought this was horrible. Crucially, after the match, Garza gets the rose. He then puts it sort of near Gulak's tights. He then basically does a running kick. For me, poor Angel Garza. I just think this is horrible. This is Adam Rose versus Adam Rose meeting Goldust almost. It just doesn't work for me. What do you think?
Garza looked amazing in his attire, man. I was like, he took them trousers off, and I was like, oh man, that yellow is like, it's really good. But yeah, it's just that I love his finisher, the wing clipper. It's a really good thing. It's just why you got to shove a rose down his trunks and kick him up the backside. I have gotten a clue, man. It just irritates me. But sorry, just to throw one back because I missed something out. Just before this, you had that Shelton promo where he was backstage, and you have Shelton literally say the problem with WWE when he says, "I've seen so much talent, young talent, come and go and not achieve their potential." I'm like, oh my god, your fault. You put it on national TV. What is wrong with WWE, man? God damn, it was funny, man. I was laughing so hard at that. But yeah, like I said, this Garza thing, man. There's no consistency. What's going on?
No, exactly. As we said, in great volumes, there's no consistency. So moving forward, we then had a fun backstage segment. We got Riddle on his scooter. He's going past the Viking Raiders. He puts in an NFL reference about the Vikings and Raiders. Crucially, Randy Orton shows up. I love the point when Randy Orton just goes to him, shh, and it's almost like patting him on the head like a small kid. He's almost like, that's enough of that. You just go this way. You know what I mean? I think the tandem, the arcade bro, it can be potentially one of the things that's saving Raw at the moment. I love this segment. I thought it was so fun.
Man. See, now he's not trying to sell some gimmick, man. Matt Riddle is the most entertaining guy in the world. Like when he confronts Eric and Ivar, and he's like, so which one use a Viking support and which one use a Raiders support? Talking about the NFL, and he's like, well, I'm a Brown supporter, and it's like, oh, just genius. And then like he starts talking to Randy, then Randy gets him to zip his lip, and then sticks his hand there, and Riddle puts the zip in his hand. Oh, this is great stuff. This is the best thing going on Raw, man.
100%. It's good. It's made good of Matt Riddle, because Matt Riddle obviously was lost before, and I think this is really good. It's great to see Randy do something he enjoys.
It's giving him purpose, man. This was fantastic.
We then obviously had the matches. RK Bro facing Elias and Jackson Riker. Crucially, RK Bro get the win, which is the right thing. For me, it's pretty obvious at this point that RK Bro are going to be the ones that face AJ Styles and Omos eventually. We might not get it at the pay-per-view because it's quite soon, but I think these guys are the ones to probably get the tag team belts. I think it makes sense. You are going to get a turn eventually from Randy Orton, but let's enjoy it for what it is. What did you think of the match? And another win. 2-0 record now.
Yeah, the match was really good. So the floating bro looked rough because it looked like he landed straight on Elias's head. But it was a good double team move with like Elias can get that knee high, man. Like when he does that jumping knee, it's just mad how he connects with it. But it's exactly what it needs to be, man. You need to push this tag team. Now we all know that eventually at some point Randy's just going to snap an RKO out of nowhere. But just push this to the moon, man. This could be a big money grab for WWE for the next couple of months.
Definitely. We then obviously had Drew McIntyre backstage. He said he doesn't care who wins out of Lashley and Strowman, as long as they beat up each other. Drew then mentions T-Bar and Mace. This is the first time kind of they've been acknowledged throughout the whole kind of show at this point. It then ends up with McIntyre saying that Drew and Bobby may go again up against Strowman. Braun says his match belongs at WrestleMania Backlash. He's walking out the new champion. Drew said, Braun, that's a maybe, maybe not, but he now needs to leave. They're just hinting up sort of what Drew's involvement is in the kind of main event. For me, the interesting mention of T-Bar and Mace, there will be a rant coming later as we end the show about that. But what did you think of this segment?
He called them Mason Teabag.
Yeah, what do you expect? You obviously the thing is
that was the highlight of the promo for me, because the rest of it I was just yawning. I was like, not interested. It's the same thing we've been banging on about since WrestleMania. Move on, please. Yeah, but I know what you mean. It's just oh man, it's just painful. Like I said, no Mason T-Bar this week.
I'm saving that. I'm going to be
right, okay, no problem.
You can mention it now, but I'll be saving that until the end of the show. That's a spoiler for the podcast for you guys. That's still to come. I'm sorry if you don't like it. That's still to come.
Just no payoff to it, man. There's no consistency. It's just
You're jumping ahead, man. That's fine. Don't worry. No, it's fine. It's all right, man. It's fine. So then we obviously had this United States title match. It's non-title basically. Sheamus Mansoor. Crucially, Humberto Carrillo comes out. It looks like they're building Humberto Carrillo to face Sheamus. I don't really care. As we said earlier, for the reasons earlier, they threw the win streak of Mansoor down the drain. So basically, Goldberg basically kind of lost here, if that makes sense. It was a DQ. It wasn't a pinfall, but I just didn't care for this match at all. That's great to see Mansoor on TV. What did you think? Yeah,
just again, I don't know, funny in the middle of the pandemic, and you've got Sheamus sticking his fingers in Mansoor's mouth. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, but I booked this better 2 weeks ago, but yeah, it's not be funny. Humberto's not going to beat him. Mansoor's going to be the guy to beat him, and it's going to be at Saudi Arabia. This is the exact point where I was like, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
I think where I have a trouble with this is where are people such as Ricochet and Ali at this point? These guys are as good as the two that are in this segment, if that makes sense. I don't know where they are.
Well, if you follow him on social media, then you'll see that Ali's still continuing this feud with Ricochet on Main Event.
Oh, okay. I should watch Main Event then. That's a shame.
Apparently so, because he released a video the other day, and it was like, and the worst part was like, he cuts this really good promo, and he goes, and then he literally says, "Yeah, I'll see you on Main Event," and I'm like, oh man, my soul is breaking, man. It was
poor guys, they're so good. It's a shame we can't get back to NXT. Like, shame Ricochet can't get back to NXT, really, in honesty. But that's another conversation for another day. We then obviously had Alexa Bliss kind of back this week. She's back in the playground with Lily again. It kind of ends up with sort of Lily will do all this stuff, and it's not her fault. Lily's going to do whatever she does. This was absolutely atrocious. This is the third hour slum for me. We're getting to the point now with it where I'm just sick of it. Alexa Bliss isn't resting in ring. The vignettes and promos are kind of dull. Alexa Bliss is doing the best she can, but for me, I don't give a crap about Lily at this point. I just think it's really, really bad, and I just think it's one of them where they're dragging it on. I'm just not a fan of this. This is killing more for me every week.
I've already fantasy booked this, and I know how I want this to end. Like, let's talk about the promo first. But basically, it was the end where she starts singing, and it was quite ominous. And I was like, this is actually quite horror movie esque. Yeah. I thought that was really good towards the end of the promo. But then she talks about Lily stalking people, and then it turns out that she was in the background of Drew Gulak and Angel Garza and Sonya Deville one as well, and she's talking about stalking someone. So hopefully,
she was actually in the background, was she? I didn't spot that.
The doll was actually in the background of say, those two segments. To say Gulak and Garza,
really well
and I think it was Sonya and Charlotte. Which I know it was just Sonya.
Oh wow, okay, that would make sense.
So hopefully, if we get this something going forward with Sonya Deville, this could be really good. But like, I'm not being funny. You need to have Nikki Cross versus Alexa Bliss in a straight jacket match, and Alexa Bliss loses. You wrap her in a straight jacket, take her off in a paddy wagon, and they send her to the funny farm, and then she comes back as normal Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, I agree. I think the film with it is where we think this is probably going. Clearly, Alexa Bliss is probably Lily. When Alexa Bliss does this flipping out like she did at the Royal Rumble, pre-Royal Rumble, and at WrestleMania, then it will be Lily. But I'm just not a fan of it. I think they're doing the best they can. I'm great you mentioned that about the dolls being in the background. I did wonder, but I wasn't observant enough to raw to that at that point, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't spot them. It was only when I caught it from I think it was Wrestle Talk. I'll give them credit, man, because I say they actually showed the images, and it was like it was so small that I wouldn't have even noticed it. Like normally, when Bray does it with his animals and stuff, like it's quite obvious, you can see it, but this Lily was just literally like in a shadow, like it was really hard to see.
I think the thing with it is I think they're doing the best they can to a certain point. I like it's crap. Clearly, Bray being off TV for whatever reason at the moment is not making it easier for them because they can't progress any kind of storyline. But let's get Alexa Bliss back in the ring, even if it's she has to go on a push like the Fiend. Let's do it because Alexa Bliss was great in the ring previously.
Why are we delaying putting her back in the ring?
They just want to delay it, really.
They're just constantly on about her getting back in the ring, but she never actually does.
No, and all this that Lily's gonna do this, there'll be this attack and all this lot. There's none of that, but we'll see what happens. I think this will go on weeks and weeks. I mean, I don't know when she'll come back to the ring. To be fair, I think it's just they will just add one detail a week to it. I don't trust the payoff. I've got to be honest, based on what we've seen up since WrestleMania, the payoff has been pretty
payoff for Bray. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. We then obviously had this Raw Women's Tag Team match. We've seen this match numerous times. It's the defending champion Nia Jax Shayna facing Nia and Lana. Horrible match. It kind of went about 2 minutes and Lana makes a crucial comeback, but still we end up with Lana tapping out. I just didn't like this. I don't know why they keep pushing this women's tag team division. I think the problem with the women's tag team division at the moment, nothing's going to actually happen until we get this Tamina and Natalya rematch at WrestleMania Backlash for the title. I think that's where the belts change, but I didn't like this segment. I'm sick of the women's tag team division. It's just awful. 2
minutes and 1 second this was, and this was the biggest joke I've ever seen in wrestling, man. Like, no build up to it. They announced the match like in little sort of bottom corner sort of picture-in-picture things, but there's no backstage segments with them all. It's literally come out, have the match, ends, and I was like, oh man, this is just painful, man. Like this is the worst thing I've seen in a long time from WWE.
I think I've got one thing. Not like I was a kind of a fan of it, but there's no Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke attacking him this week. There's no run-in from Natalya to Mina. There's nothing here, again, which is one of them things where it's just a match and it ends for no reason.
Yeah, it doesn't build to Backlash, and it just doesn't make sense. And then there was a network exclusive afterwards where Naomi and Lana are being interviewed, and they're saying that they're always complaining that it's a 3-on-2 handicap because of obviously Reginald getting involved. And Naomi turns around and says, oh, maybe we should start cheating. I was like, I'm not being funny. If that's the dynamic you're going with, what's the point? They're supposed to be a face tag team, but now you're sitting and you've got them doing backstage segments on the network saying, we're going to start cheating now. It's just it's so bad, man.
Going to go to the comments. Got a great one here. WrestleMania QK. Good morning to you, Max. Thank you for checking that video. Thank you for the comment. Not surprising NXT made their own women's tag division. 100% agree. We were saying off there. The women's NXT tag main event was incredible. This is what women's wrestling should be. You can see.
Yeah, absolutely, man. They got they're just shy of 16 minutes, man. And in the 16 minutes, they've done the best thing that I've seen on WWE TV in ages. This to make reference to this as well, there was Lana was interviewed on a podcast, and she turned around and said that the women's match on AEW had more time in the match than the women had in a whole month on SmackDown, I think it was something like they got about 15, 16 minutes or something, and apparently it was that one match on AEW was more than what all the women had in March or April or something for SmackDown. And I was like, this is a massive joke, man.
Definitely. crucially, let's get to this kind of main event then. So we've got Bobby Lashley versus Braun Strowman. Really, really solid match. Although we've seen it a few times, I like the fact that they tried to make Braun kind of a big deal again. They've forgotten the slime and all this other stuff's gone on this year. But no, crucially, we do end up with kind of Bobby Lashley picking up the win. We do get Drew McIntyre getting involved, which was interesting. Obviously, Bobby wins. Post-match, Drew goes into the ring. He hits a Claymore on Lashley. He then ends up with sort of McIntyre hitting a Claymore on Braun. So Lashley and Braun are down. McIntyre stands strong at the end of kind of the show. We don't get any sort of run-in. There's no Mason T-bar, which we'll get to in a second. What did you think of the match?
Match was all right. It has its flaws. Like, obviously, you have Drew come down and he's sitting on the commentator's table, and everyone can see what's going to happen here. You're going to have Braun do his little run around the ring. Bobby's going to move out of the way. He's going to hit Drew, and he's going to clatter him. But how comes the 3 commentators sitting next to him all knew that was going to happen and moved, but Drew didn't? I was like, oh, man, it's just...
I've sorry to interrupt, Steve. I've got one real big complaint about this. So I don't know if it's just me. What annoys me is they're in the middle of this match. You get Drew McIntyre's music hit. What happened back to the good old days where wrestlers just come out, the shock value of them coming out? You know what I mean? It's almost like you get Drew McIntyre's music hitting. If it's a finish to a distraction, fine. It's a really cheap way to end the match, but he comes out and there's no real sort of let's get him away from here. It's almost like he's allowed to be there, which it just really kind of it's amateur.
Yeah,
and carry on with what you're saying.
And then you've got him sitting on like this is just before you've got him sitting on the commentary table, and you've got Adnan Virk talking about promo class, and you've got Drew's sitting there awkwardly sitting there, have to go in. Yeah, well, Vince used to do promo classes when I was like first here, and it's like that's the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen someone have to sit through on WWE, because it was like, what promo class? Why are you bringing this up on a main event, man? These guys are your main event stars, and you're talking about them doing promo class. Like, get this guy off my TV, man. He's a joke.
Definitely going to go to sort of the last part before we score the show. Then, so obviously Drew stands tall. For me, this is where it gets really silly. So they've been building up this Mason T-bar thing for weeks now, and they didn't do anything this week at all. Why would you build this up for weeks? This was a crucial part for Drew to get attacked again by them, and you didn't do that. And this is where I have a trouble with Raw. Every single week, I kind of want to get invested in stuff. I want to think they're going to do something, but you wouldn't go and see the NWO angle start on WCW and then it be dropped after a week. You know what I mean? You wouldn't go and see sort of the forming of the Ministry of Darkness be dropped. It's just one of them things where what do they expect people to do? It's just how can you get behind sort of these sort of angles in these main matches when stuff's missing week on week?
I just think Vince's whole dynamic to wrestling has changed, because before, like back in the 90s and the early sort of noughties and stuff, he was more into long-term storytelling, but now I just think he's more into short-term pops. Like, he wants that wow factor every week, and it's like you're not going to get that every week, unfortunately, and this is the kind of stuff that we end up with. Like, there's no explanation as to why Mason T-Bar weren't on TV this week. Like, not even a vignette, or do you know what I mean? Just
you got to bear in mind. Sorry to interrupt, Steve. You got to bear in mind how last week ended. Last week ended with this question mark. Why? And Bobby should have been angry because he costed them last week. You know what I mean? There was none of that last week. That was totally dropped this week, and it's just one of the things where
you should have had You should have had Bobby this week facing either Mace or T-Bar. It would have made more sense going into Backlash.
I get it's not a big match. It doesn't have the magnitude of the main event they put out there. But what was?
Then you could have had. That's what I'm saying. You could have had Drew or Braun then interfere and do the same thing that happened on. Yes, all right, it's an interference, but at least it would pay some sort of continuity to the story they're trying to tell here.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. Let's score the show then. So for me, if I was going to give this a rating out of 10, I'm going to go 5 out of 10. It was watchable in parts. Still not quite there for me. I think they're missing out crucial stuff. Stuff like Corey Graves' commentary as well throughout was a bit ropey. Like when Amos was there earlier in the show, he's on about Amos is going to be the greatest wrestler of all time. Is he the greatest wrestler of all time? He's had 2 matches, so it was just ridiculous. And them saying that AJ and Amos will be tag team champions forever. Well, of course they'll be tag team champions forever. They never defend the belt. It's just so stupid. What did you think of the overall score and rating the show?
I'll be honest with you, I can't rate it as high as you did this week, man. I mean, like, looking back at the card and stuff, there was probably 2 good matches on the whole thing. I'm probably going to have to give this a 3, I think. I think Matt Riddle was probably one of the saving graces. The Charlotte Dana match was okay, just really short, unfortunately. Didn't have much payoff to it. And then the tag match between RK Bro and Elias and Riker. But otherwise, there was nothing really that just even remotely got me excited to come back and watch it again next week.
Definitely going to go to one last thing just before we go on to our Daniel Bryan discussion quickly. The last thing I'd say, Steve, is off there before we went on air. You said something about Raw and the amount of minutes and matches. Give that fact, please,
sorry,
please.
yeah. This will make you die, right? So Raw is a 3-hour show, and I did the maths. I worked out all the times, and Raw this week had 55 minutes and 15 seconds worth of wrestling over a 3-hour show. NXT last night, which I've watched and recorded and stuff, and the review will be coming later today, 55 minutes and 23 seconds in a 2-hour show. And it's like, how is a 2-hour show got more wrestling in it? All right, it's only 8 seconds, but Raw is 3 hours long. I'm expecting at least 30 minutes more wrestling if NXT's doing 55 minutes. I'm expecting an hour and a half's worth of wrestling. Yeah, man, it's killing it, man. Raw is just unbelievable at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're getting to the point now they want to push and see sort of how far people keep watching, even if it's bad. I saw the ratings have gone up this week, so they're doing something right. Apparently, it was really kind of highly rated, which I was surprised. I don't know sort of what.
God.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of. I think they got a 1.89, if I'm not mistaken. So they were going up, but I don't know why. I think
that's been milked. I think that's how WWE normally they milk their attendance records at stadiums for like Mania and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, here's 100,000 people. It's only really 75,000. It's like I think WWE's leaked that viewing figure. Oh, it's 1.89.
I think it was definitely. I think sort of Brian Alvarez did it, so I trusted it, but it's just shocking. But I'm going to go to the comments just before we go to Daniel Bryan quickly. Mex here, WrestleMania QK. Thanks for your comment again, Mex. Riddle's been the best part of Raw for weeks now. 100% agree.
Yeah.
He's been making it watchable.
Randy. Absolutely, yeah.
He gives Randy something to do. He gives Riddle something to do. 100% agree with these guys. So let's kind of get into this then. So obviously SmackDown, we had this fantastic main event. It was sort of Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan loses, is expelled from SmackDown. They got a credible amount of time. It felt big. It felt bigger than anything I've kind of seen recently on WWE television, I'd say, besides the pay-per-views. What did you think of the match and the finish?
The match was fantastic, man. Unreal. It was unfortunate that we all knew what the outcome was going to be. That was the only downside to it, really, is everyone knew that Roman was going to win. Roman with his new music, man. A lot of people hating it. I think he's brilliant, man. I think it's perfect for him. I think he's got rid of that Shield music, and it's just, yes, it's a remix of the Shield music, but it just makes him more of a total package now. And SmackDown, like, this is, 3 days, and this is the contrast in difference. You've got an amazing show of SmackDown on Friday to this absolute dog pile of stuff on the Monday, man. It's just unreal. But man, what an amazing match. Pay-per-view level S match.
Definitely. The amount of time they got, it felt big. You know what I mean? That's the thing. That world title, Universal title, feels so big at this point. It's got so much leverage, if that makes sense, and levity. But I just think for me, it was good. So crucially, obviously, Daniel Bryan lost the match. It has come out sort of via Fightful Select that apparently Daniel Bryan's contract's expired. Quite a few places saying his contract's expired. So he's obviously not got a contract with WWE, which is quite interesting. And I thought he was going to the creative team, so I'm very surprised to hear his contract's kind of out.
I thought it was running until the summer. I thought he still had like 2 months left on it.
It's a shock to me. I think the film with it is look at it like this: Samoa Joe, Daniel Bryan, both free. What a time to be a wrestling fan, eh? Both free agents. Let's hope that they do something. But for me, I'd be surprised if Daniel Bryan goes to AEW. I can't see it really. I think he'll be.
I would like to have seen him. Like, I know a lot of people have been talking about him going on basically a dream match run. Like, go to NXT, have matches with, for instance,
I think Finn Balor, Johnny Gargano, that them two would be quite good.
Johnny Gargano, Finn Balor, I think he's had that match before. So I want matches that they sort of haven't had before. So like you said, Johnny Gargano, a Tommaso Ciampa, I think that would be
Kyle
really
O'Reilly.
Good. Yeah, Kyle O'Reilly, that would be
Adam
amazing
Cole.
as well. Adam Cole, obviously, he had that SmackDown match with him when NXT invaded. But then go on to like New Japan, fight Zack Sabre Jr. in New Japan, man, because this is where I think Daniel's career is getting to now. Is he's now going to start going for trophy matches and going for them big numbers, man. But it's if he doesn't come back, it'll be sad to see him go. But like I said, there's opportunities out there for him to have probably the best matches of his life.
I think he wants to go do the whole family thing that Ronda Rousey's kind of doing, that type of thing as well. I think that kind of makes sense, but I just can't see him going to AEW. I just don't think he'll want to do that schedule. And I'm just be very surprised if he does turn up at AEW.
Don't get me wrong. I'd like to see a Bryan Danielson Kenny Omega match. I think
that would be amazing.
Fantastic.
I just can't see him kind of doing it really. I think it was a big shock. I think they did a great job of keeping the fact his contract was up. We knew he wasn't going to win the match, but it's a big loss to WWE. Clearly, I thought we'd get another sort of Edge Daniel Bryan program out of this, so I'm a bit surprised. But have you got anything else you know before we get to kind of the last story today?
What do you reckon is going to happen with this throwback SmackDown this week? Because obviously I know Fox do it once a year. They do like a whole throwback week, and obviously with SmackDown being on Fox, they're doing like the promos they've been running are for like an 80s version of SmackDown, which has never existed. But like I'm sitting there thinking like, I want the old intro music, that gritty, dirty look, and it's a shame they can't get like the giant fist out of the warehouse and put that back on display, man. I just wanted for what they could do to make it more retro this week.
I wonder if we'll get like Teddy Long or something, or maybe sort of Teddy Long making matches. I guess they have to get the SmackDown fist, definitely. It's kind of really interesting. The fact they've chose to do that, I don't think they need to do that because of how good the show's been.
I think it's more to do with the network than anything else, because it's a theme that Fox does on their network for the week. So like all the NFL production and NHL and NBA productions, they all do this sort of flashback week where everyone sort of does. It's not WWE, it's more of a network thing, but WWE are just playing off it to fit in, really.
It'd be interesting to see what they can sort of do. Obviously, we're in the transition of a pay-per-view. Like, we're building stuff up for the pay-per-view. They still haven't announced Cesaro facing Reigns yet. So I don't know how that'll fit with that, because they've only obviously got, I think, crucially 2 SmackDowns, including this coming week's one to the pay-per-view. So I don't know how that'll fit. But I think it may just be the presentation that's a bit more sort of nostalgic, really, rather than the actual sort of...
That's what I'm saying. I'd like to see 90s style SmackDown, not just some random... stuff that they've made up, like the nameplates and all this kind of stuff.
Go back to the 90s music as well. I used to love the 90s music.
That's what I'm saying. Not have the 90s intro, but like how they did with Raw 25, get the original 90s intro, but then just put current day wrestlers in it, but have the same sort of thing. Yeah, it looked good, man.
Definitely. Going to go forward to our last story. So our last story, quite a big talking point at the moment. Clearly, it's diamond mining NXT. We've obviously, there's been a lot of kind of rumored and judged. I know we spoke quite a bit off air about it. Clearly, it looks at the moment Tessa Blanchard isn't involved, which is kind of interesting. She's not going AEW according to the reports. WWE apparently have said that on the WWE Fightful Full Select have said that they don't see her going to NXT either. Crucially, there has been a tweet that has gone around that there was some sort of stable building that's going to be sort of known that I sent to you, Steve. And they look pretty dominant. But for me, I think we're going to get new wrestlers in the stable. I'm quite excited. What do you think of the Vignette this week on NXT, and who's going to be in it potentially?
The Vignette's just basically the same one they run last week. Really, it's nothing special. There's still the whole sort of people work out in sort of a mixed martial arts gym kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, it would be new. It'd be nice to have sort of however many, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 guys come in and do this faction. It's just. My only worry is like these 5 guys look like mad powerhouses, and NXT is not stacked for powerhouses. Like, you've got Karrion Kross, and that's it. There's not really any other sort of notable big guys that are built like that. So I feel they could probably run through this division in about 2 weeks, and then that's it. They'd be pushed straight to the main event on the main roster.
Definitely. We know that one of them we believe is Ezra Judge. Ezra Judge sort of has got a great look. He's another one that looks absolutely huge. Parker Bordeaux is another one potentially to be added. They were going to be known as the Trust. Apparently, I know WWE trademarked the Trust, but I think they've got to put these guys on TV eventually. So this is the spot to do it. I can't see Don Mine being a single person. And I think it'd be interesting. Do you see them being heels or baby faces? I think
heels 100%, man. These guys are going to come in and destroy everything, man. They look like well, it sounds like a heel faction, and it just sounds like they're going to come in and just ruin everything.
I've got one thing for you, Steve. I know you're our NXT expert here on Jonesy and Steve Wrestling. So with this, then, I would love to see them come in with somebody sort of more senior that's on the product already. Someone to lead them into NXT. Really, you want to have this sort of money mouth type arrogant agent, if that makes sense. Who do you see sort of being like sort of the leader behind them, if that makes sense, who's already on the roster, or who do you reckon's bringing them to NXT? It's got to be somebody, hasn't it, to make it kind of work if they're going to be heels.
The only sort of the problem with NXT is there's not really a lot of management figures on the program. You've only really got
it wouldn't have to be a manager. You could always bring somebody from Raw and SmackDown that's not been used. Maybe as I would have thought Cameron Grimes, but he's too much of a comedy act now. That's gone.
Really. Yeah, no. If you're looking at 5 powerhouses, it needs to either be a female or it needs to be sort of a well etiquetted sort of gentleman. Do you know what I mean? Someone who knows the business, but it can be a wrestler, but just say he needs to be someone sort of. If you had sort of someone that like dresses like Reginald, someone who appears in suits constantly and stuff like that, you could have. But I'll say even a female. If you had a power female like get for Carmella, for instance, if you had a current iteration in NXT, have someone like her who's like basically like kind of like like a final boss on a fighting game or something, and like she has these 5 henchmen. Like I reckon that could be an excellent dynamic for it.
I'll tell you how I'd debut them as well. Last time I'm going to kind of say, I'll tell you how I'd debut them. I would have them sort of come to the next takeover, if that makes sense. I think you've got to have them, and I think you've got to have them take out Karrion Kross. I think he's your strongest person. These guys should attack baby faces and heels. They want to be there. You need to attack the top, really. I think that's the kind of way you hit hard, basically.
Yeah, to say, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad shout. I mean, you could do that, or
you remember how the Shield debuted? They sort of got interrupted.
Jumped,
if these guys are only attacking sort of Cameron Grimes or somebody of that level, it's not going to be particularly. It's not going
to put. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Because if they're doing this to sort of say mid card guys, then it's not going to put them as high as what I expect they want them to be. So yeah, like the only thing I can think of is obviously on NXT this week, a whole dynamic plays out where there's sort of 4 people vying for the main title. Yeah. So the only thing I can think of is if, say, for instance, you had all 4 guys in a match for the title, and then these 5 guys come in and just absolutely destroy the 4 of them. Yeah, and it would just make them look so powerful.
Unless you have one of the 4 as kind of a leader, maybe that kind of helps them sort of win. Ultimately, sort of is revealed and tries to win. Maybe I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to go with that, I think the only dynamic that sort of would logically make sense would be Finn Balor.
Yeah, that could be good. I think that would be really refreshing as well.
Yeah, I mean, give Balor a faction, man, like Harry used to have in Japan with Bullet Club and stuff like that, and just let him run wild. And yeah, I think it could be good.
No worries. Have you got any question before we end the show today, Steve?
No, we only have one other thing, which was Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal's now back. He was on main event. He got helped by Rinku and Saurev, I believe it is. I can't remember.
He's got his stable, hasn't he? He's got his 3-man stable, including himself.
Yeah, he's upgraded from the Bollywood boys to these 2, and obviously these 2 are the guys that they were on NXT, and then they
Indy Sharir, weren't they? They were with that Malcolm Bevins, weren't they, before?
Yeah, but they're the ones that they got dropped suddenly because one of them leaked the photo of Keith Lee celebrating with the NXT and the North American Championship when he won, because obviously this is when they were pre-recorded. One of them was the one that leaked the photo online, and they got binned instantly. So yeah, it's good to see Jinder Mahal back. I'd like to see him get into a promo with Drew, man. Get Drew away from that title for a little while. Relive some of that 3MB lifestyle.
Definitely. Steve, listen, I want to thank you so much for doing the show. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate you coming on again. Thank you all for joining and watching us. I hope you have yourself a great day. We potentially may be back later tonight for a Q&A session. So if you've got any questions and we do it, please obviously drop them down. It'd be great to get your interaction, and sort of this may be tonight about 9 o'clock GMT time. Listen, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you have yourselves a great week. Enjoy AEW Blood and Guts and Glory tonight if you watch it. Thank you as always for checking that video and your support. As always, please subscribe. We're only 3 or 4 subscribers away now from our next milestone, which is good. And a thumbs up always helps. So this has been Jonesy Chats Wrestling. I've been George, joined by Steve, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for watching, guys.